Hello there, I'm Nathalia Melo, your unfiltered fit BFF. Mom of two turned CEO of a fitness empire. Someone who truly understands the struggles of trying to stay fit, sane, and sexy, all while juggling work, life, and motherhood. And this is the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. Follow along wherever you're listening and join me weekly as I help busy working moms just like you simplify your fitness journey so you can lose fat, regain your confidence, and feel sexy AF. It's time to stop living in the what ifs and hiding from the cameras. It's time to regain control over your body, feel sexy naked, and wear a bikini confidently. People already see you as a super confident woman, but it's time for you to feel the same way too. Come on, let's go. Hello there, fam. Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. I'm Nathalia Melo, your host, and today I have my monthly co-host, Jen, who is the head coach and mental health professional within the Powerhouse Academy. And today we are going to be talking about everything on how to stop gaining and losing the same 10 to 20 pounds for good. Hi, Jen.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me back.
And we're still it's going to be a year that we're trying to find a name for this segment. And here we are. I to be fair though, before we got on today, I was actually, crafting some names. So I think I have narrowed down to 5. So maybe for the next one, we're going to do a little vote on the show notes. That way people can help us decide on a name. But I would like to have that before the end of the year because this is getting ridiculous.
Listen, goals for 2025. Okay. Goals for 2025.
Well, which, funny you say that because I think it goes it tees me up perfectly to start talking about what we want to talk about on this topic today. Which, I'm pretty sure that most people listening to this episode have, lost and gained the same 5, 10, 15, 20. It doesn't necessarily matter what that number is, but it's just the idea of gaining and losing, losing and gaining and losing, losing and gaining. And I think that right now, as we're wrapping up summer, is a perfect time to talk about it because many people are coming off vacations and being off routines and, off a break. And then they're like, holy shit, what is happening?
Right.
But then at the same time, we have the holidays right around the corner.
Yep.
So I think that the importance of what we're going to be talking about with your expertise is the impact, the negative, the emotional impact that this cycle has on people, especially when we're talking about high achieving women.
Right. It goes hand in hand with any other constant cycle that we find ourselves on, but specifically the weight gain, right? So as much as we as women want to maybe accept ourselves for where we are and love ourselves in all the places that we live through. Yeah, but we also want to feel good. We want to look good because when we look good, we do good, we feel good. And it trickles down into every other piece of our life. But outside of that, whenever we do run this hamster wheel or live on this constant cycle of gain, lose, we're ultimately subconsciously telling ourselves that we are failing. And then you're feeling inadequate because you do fail at some point throughout the year, but then you succeed, but then you fail, succeed, fail, succeed, fail. So then what does that create? Again, your baseline is basically saying you're average, mediocre, which then is subpar to what high achieving you categorize yourself to be. And your physical presence, your physical being does connect significantly to your professional capacity and then your personal capacity, of course.
Oh, I love this so much. I'm taking notes here because I want to come back to this on the professional impact and personal impact because I feel there isn't enough talked about it. Actually, no, let's talk about it now. I'm going to go off like I normally like to have my notes, but I think that this is the perfect time because, I feel like a lot of times what I hear when I'm speaking with someone who is wanting to join the Powerhouse Academy or just chatting with them on social media is the whole idea of yeah, I think about it all the time. And I feel frustrated and I feel a bit stressed out because I keep on trying to do the thing and I'm not getting the results of the effort. And then one of the questions that I normally follow up with is how do you think this is impacting you? And more times than not, I get answer that looks a bit like this. I'm paraphrasing. Oh no, like, I'm able to keep it to myself. I don't bring it home. My kids don't know what I'm experiencing at work. I'm able to show up the same. And you understanding the mind
Mm-hmm.
from being a mental health professional. Is this really a thing that you can completely delete, control, alt, delete
Oh,
that area of your life and be like, you know what? The moment that I walk home, none of that stressor that my clothes didn't fit, that, I feel inadequate on my pants, that I didn't speak to someone because do you like, is it possible? Is it really a thing?
if you can compartmentalize that significantly, that means that you are void of emotion, which then I'm going to call a spade on this one. You are a sociopath. So, no, it's not possible unless, again, you are clinically a sociopath, because our emotions are definitely translating through our behavior patterns, even by the posture you keep when you walk in the house, right? So, just think about how you're even walking into the front door or how you walk from your bedroom to the bathroom. Are your shoulders hunched over, or are you standing up straight with your chest, lifted proud and high? When you sit at the kitchen table with your family and are having a conversation at dinner, how are you sitting at the table? Are you comfortable? And even if it means comfort doesn't always come from, or confidence come from, sitting up nice and tall with your legs crossed at the ankle like a female should according to etiquette standards. It could mean sitting there comfortably at the kitchen table with a sleeveless shirt on, a tank top on, and being comfortable there rather than having a big bulky sweatshirt on while eating dinner with your family, because of course food can trigger a negative reaction in front of your family. So it does translate very differently. You just might not notice it because you've closed your eyes to seeing it, your mind's eye, but it doesn't mean it's not subconsciously being projected.
I love this because I would consider myself fairly decent at compartmentalizing and separating, work Natalia, training Natalia, mom Natalia, wife Natalia. But I can tell when I have something stressful going on, like with one of our members that we take, very whenever our members are struggling, we take this to heart.
Oh, so
It's
much.
like it's very personal. So whenever we see one of our members is struggling or there is something happening, and I know I'm stressed with what's going on within the Powerhouse Academy and within the business, and the moment that I step out of the office, is not that the problems completely go away. I can feel a little bit of an edge on how I am with my kids,
Oh,
or
sure.
how I am with my husband, and that's why I always struggle a little bit to like even wrap my head around the whole idea of like, oh no, like it doesn't bother at all. And I'm like, holy shit, like, is there something wrong with me?
It's a
Like, am I
superpower.
broken? Yeah.
And it's funny because even I too think that I do a pretty good job of, keeping things under lock and key, especially with everything that I listen to and have to work through with a lot of our ladies and then other things in particular. But I can always tell when I guess I'm not doing the greatest job because my daughter will randomly come over to me and give me a hug.
Yeah.
And my daughter is not warm and fuzzy. So for her to do that, obviously thinking, we think, but again, what is actually projecting is very, very different. And
And what
that's
about at
ignorance.
work? And what about at work? Because again, that's another thing. It's like, oh no, I'm very good at my job, like there is no problem there at all. But I can't see how, like, regardless of what you do, when like, obviously for me it's hard to say because obviously it is a fitness business, so it's almost like, oh no, your image. But even on the inside of our operations, I feel that when I feel good, I show up better for our team.
Oh, absolutely. So you could be 100% a student, if you will, categorize yourself at work, and through and through what your job description is. You can follow the protocol 100% to a T. Your factors that play into the reports that you have to provide to your boss could be on point without a mistake. But then again, are you presenting them personally in a way that speaks to the confidence behind the reports that you have to supply or the presentations you have to give for them? Are you allowing that to be what dictates your value at your job, is only what's on paper rather than who you are as a person? And that is also going to dictate how far you go within your role. And are you okay with just sitting still?
It's funny. There was a conversation that I had a while back with, and we still see a lot of this, but this one really stuck with me because it was so significant. I spoke with a lady who was a engineer for NASA.
Mm.
I mean, you ain't stupid
Mm-mm.
if you are working and you get a job as an engineer for NASA.
Right.
Like, let's just like call it what it is. And she said something that like literally broke my heart. Like I still get a bit of like goosebumps and all the good goosebumps when I think about it, because she was like, I have all this knowledge that I want to share whenever we are in a meeting, but I am afraid of raising my hand, not because I don't believe in what I know, but I don't want people looking at me because I don't like what I see.
That is terrifying and so sad at the same time, because that information that she could be relaying and conveying could translate to significant, like literal world changes. But that's
Yeah.
besides the point. But again, case in point, how her physical presence is not allowing her to show up at her best, her absolute best, with the confidence in. So she says she knows the information, but how come you can't relay that information?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that like confidence is a word that is used a lot, but I feel like people don't truly understand like how it impacts the different areas of life when you don't have that confidence, kind of like going back to whenever you're always losing and gaining the same 10, 20, 30, whatever pounds, you start to lose the confidence in yourself, in your
Because,
ability to follow through with a promise that you made to yourself.
well,
And that is going to start to trickle down.
because that is trust in yourself. Your confidence stems from being able to trust yourself, right? But if you're constantly succeeding, failing, how could you trust yourself? Because you're not ultimately proving it. And trust comes from proof. So then again, you're now trying to go and relay information professionally. You're going to sit there and teach your kids how to live their life properly, or sit there and trust in your spouse or significant other or partner, but you're not trusting yourself to present the information. And that's where your confidence is going to come from, because how are you going to expect them to trust you if you can't trust yourself?
Yep. 100%. And I think I did an office hour recently, like saying that like fitness is a relationship that you have with yourself, like fitness in nutrition. And I've made reels about it. I got pushback about it, but I stand by it wholeheartedly, is that whenever you respect yourself enough by following through and setting boundaries and doing the things that some more times than not are not easy, but they are necessary for you to take things to the next level and for you to feel good within yourself, it's showing respect for self. And whenever you have respect for self, other people will see it and they will also respect you.
It's a reciprocal relationship.
Yeah,
And that's
it's
what so
crazy.
many don't realize. And that's why I am so passionate about relationships in general, because your self respect will dictate all of the relationships you allow into your life to begin with. And then, of course, how you show up to respect those relationships will translate to how you then have the better, stronger self respect as well. And it all filters into how you ultimately are caring for yourself consistently.
100%. And I have a question, Jen, like, why do you think that this whole idea of, because I feel like people see it as normal. Oh, I'm going to take a break now because it's the summer. Oh, I'm going to take a break because I have a vacation coming up, or because kids are getting back in school and it's going to be crazy, or we're having a renovation. Why has this becoming so common? Although it's not normal, I think that there is a difference between common and
Yeah.
normal. And what is the problem with that?
Of course, it's very individual, but people become overwhelmed with the seasons of the literal year, and in life in general, and they don't know how to just finally accept for themselves that it is a true lifestyle. They don't know how to flip the switch to say, no, this is just a part of my daily routine, like brushing my hair and my teeth, because maybe they weren't taught from a young age that it is a lifestyle. And that's how times change, though, too, right? So what was normal in the 1940s is not going to be normal in 2025.
Do you think, Jen, that there is also like, I understand this overwhelm and I hear you. I a zillion percent agree, but I think that we should take maybe a step back from that, because I feel that what you described is almost a consequence, like it's a symptom
Mhm.
that has been caused by quick fixes.
Right.
So because we have, the quick fix, the 30-day plan that is going to solve all your problems, and then puts a woman who is, I don't know, who has 5 kids or 3 kids or 2 kids and works 70 hours a week and now has a husband, they are like, they sign up for one thing and it's like, hey, you have to train 6 days a week for 2 hours every single day. And it's completely not aligned with the reality of their lives. And then they try to do it because they are hard workers.
Hmm.
But it is feasible, like not like the feasibility of it is non-existent.
Right.
And then these like unrealistic expectations of their time and what they can actually do. And, it can be because they've done it in the past, whatever. But now it's not feasible. And then this constant stop and start because of the extremity, like how extreme the plans are, causes them to feel like the only way to do it is in the concept of on and off. Do you
Right.
think that that's
Which is that constant cycle of failing and succeeding. They can do the 30 days, they can do the 3-month process, but then when they realize that it's not sustainable through the course of time, through the lifestyle changes, through the seasons of life, then they feel as though they're a failure. So then they go, oh, well, I'm off again. But this is normal because this is what I've been doing. It's a behavior patterns, right? It's a habit. It's become habitual. And in order to break that habit, it requires consistent effort made over the course of time within a reasonable perspective and application that you have truly dictated for what makes sense for you at that point in time, but also being able to adapt as times adapt, having that open mindedness to adapt and overcome rather than be so hard set in the idea of a 30-day program, a 3-month program, whatever the case may be. But how does
yeah.
that happen? Time, time.
And I think that not only time, but peeling the layers, which I think that that's what you do brilliantly with our members, to help them understand, like, what are we rushing for? And that's not that they're not going to get the results at a certain speed, but it's kind of like, why? Like asking the questions that I think, and this is not to shit on anybody's head as far as like other coaches, but I think that that's where there is a lot of disconnect with how fitness is being done now, that we're not asking the difficult questions. We're not asking, like, why does it have to be so fast? Because what I come to realize is that a lot of times there is a why. And, it might be, I don't know, like I haven't been intimate with my husband and I can feel that we are becoming more and more distant. And I think that if I speed up this process, I'm going to feel more confident in lingerie. And this response becomes a much more, it gives us coaches much more context as to why we're speeding things up. And meeting somewhere in the middle. Maybe it's not going to be as fast as you want, but maybe we can speed up a little bit here in the beginning to give you that moment with your spouse that you so much crave.
But let's also understand that even the initial step, that first literal step forward, is giving you that takeaway for yourself to know, okay, I'm on the path to learning and understanding and creating what I desperately needed that I didn't realize I needed. And I have people in my corner, the support system that I have to guide me even more so. And I can have that first step of confidence towards my husband, spouse, to open up the dialogue and say, I have been uncomfortable. I'm working on becoming more comfortable. Do you see it? Or even just, again, getting a better understanding of why they weren't even comfortable speaking to their spouse about the issue that they were internalizing. And that's going to be so much more in the idea of progress than even
Yeah.
just the physical response, but then watch your physical body respond.
Yeah, and I think that this conversation that we're having, like, I think that here we are like many layers deep.
Yeah.
into what it actually is that I feel a lot of people don't make the connection. And because so many people have been living in a state that they don't even know what it is like to feel good.
Right.
It's like feeling mediocre has become such a norm for them.
Right.
And we had something like this recently with one of our members that said, like, I didn't realize how much I wasn't being myself until I started being myself again. And you know who I'm referring to,
Yeah.
you know, scheduling date nights with her husband after years. And what I find is that there is this mental gymnastics of pretending that everything's fine. Oh no, it's good. No, it's all good. Like, you know, like it doesn't bother me at all. Because I remember in my initial conversation with this particular member that was the, oh no, it's not even that bad. It's not even that bad. And you know, you're making all these mental gymnastics to pretend that there isn't a problem, but in reality, it is. So what do you think that would be questions that people could, like anybody listening could ask themselves to, you know, see if they are living the fluff, kind of like tying into your mindset workshop, that because I listened and I thought it was brilliant. It made me think a lot about myself. Do you like what questions should people ask themselves as to whether they're living the fluff or if they're truly being honest about how they feel?
You know, there's a lot of different literal focuses that you could pay attention to, like how do you become anxious if you're not able to care for, let's say, your home a certain way? If you don't get to, like I actually mentioned it, what the fluff, like if your pillows, if they all don't have a home, does that freak you out? Right. Now, listen, I'm not talking about your bed made in the morning, because trust me, that's getting made every morning in my house. However, but you know, on your couch, no one's walking into your home, right? Nobody's coming into your home for weeks and weeks on end, but somehow you have to have every single object in your home in its place. And if somebody moves it, you have a legit panic attack. What is that telling you? That you are using physical objects to distract from your actual presence, right? Look at all of the pretty little things that are going on in my life instead of looking at me. Or if you are sitting there and focusing so much on, and this, I will use myself as a perfect example, back when, look at all of the designer items I have flashing all over me from head to toe, literally head to toe, because I don't want you to see the bigger picture of how unhappy I am.
In to tie that, like this unhappiness can, you know, be with life, but it can also be with yourself, because we've had members that mentioned that they stopped buying a lot of designer stuff because they didn't feel the need to, you know, and listen, love me a good, like we bougie bitches.
And I say that I'm fancy. Don't get me wrong, I'm fancy.
Yeah, we love nice stuff. Don't get me wrong. But I think that what we're talking is like the overcompensation, like
Correct.
of having to wear all the things and spending all this money and all these things to distract from what you're truly feeling.
Right. Suppressing ultimately, like, again, don't look at me. Look at everything else I have. Look at everything else on the outside instead of looking at me, because I am not comfortable in me. So, and yeah, my whole reason was because not only was life challenging, but I was not comfortable in my physical presence. After coming off of competing, there was such a roller coaster of emotions that I experienced that it was like, don't look at my physical body anymore, please. And look at everything else that I can distract you with.
And I'm going to follow up with a question that is going to be a bit of a tangent, but that's what we do here. Because what I see a lot of times, like, you know, it's interesting because people believe that only those who are significantly overweight are the ones who need help. And then whenever we're talking about numbers like 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever, the idea is, oh, it's not even that bad. Like, you know, I don't even have that much to lose. But I think that what they don't see more than I think a lot of our members that had a lot more weight to lose is the mental load that it brings, especially when you're so close. I think the stress of that, of constantly thinking about it. And what made me ask is, you know, what you're mentioning there, not being content with your physical presence. And I'm sure that for society standards, you probably looked amazing.
according to everybody else, sure, they could have said it over and over again. Cool. It's not what I see. It's not what I hear. It's not what I feel.
Right. And I feel like these are the conversations that we need to have, that is not necessarily just about the 10 and 20 pounds, but it's about how the constant thought about it negatively impacts all areas of your life.
Consuming to where, no, how could you be present for anybody or anything else in your life? You sit there and say you're hyper focused at work and you can sit there and achieve every single thing that you set out to achieve in your day to day. Bullshit. Because you know what? I know you're sitting there thinking about when you can have your next snack or when your next lunch meal is, or when you can fit something in between the meetings that you'll show up great for in your mind, but you're so distracted by lunch that who's to say that you actually are showing up at the greatest that you could be?
Or thinking about if you have to do a presentation. Like we've had members who were attorneys that shared with us about not feeling like sending associates to trials because they didn't feel comfortable in their own suits. So I think that people are not making the connection. They're just looking at the 5, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, but it's not about the 5, 10, 20, 30, whatever. It's about how it impacts and how it hinders you from truly living your best life. And then you have the fluff, the distraction. Oh, I'm going to book the vacation. Oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, I'm going to buy these shoes. But then you buy the shoe, you can enjoy it because you're so heavy, your feet hurt. You go on the vacation, you spend all this money on the vacation, and then you feel like shit and you're wrapped in a towel the whole time because you feel uncomfortable in a swimming suit. Like, is it really worth it?
Right. And then speak to, how about you're so uncomfortable within your mental and emotional presence that ultimately your physical energy levels are not sustaining any sort of enjoyment either. So you can't go and enjoy the expeditions or whatever they're called when you go on the vacation, or you can't show up to present, and you are now out of the running for potential partner in your firm or anywhere else because you can't show up to handle what you have to handle with the greatest confidence that they need to see in order to achieve the next level of success. Or playing with your kids, getting down on the floor with your kids, anything that really does translate to the true fulfillment in life. Or you don't have the energy to be present, or your mental awareness is not there because you're so hyper focused on that 5, 10, or 15 pounds that you think is nothing, when in reality it's everything. It's become your identity.
Yes, you just did such a, like you put a bow on, because this has lived rent free in my brain for a long time. And for a very long time, I had a very difficult time articulating it because I don't think that people talk about, there's always the conversation about, oh no, if you need help from a coach, like you need to, let me help you lose 20 pounds. And yes, we can help you with that. But even if you don't have all this weight to lose, it isn't about the weight, it's about the emotional weight that is causing you. Because we've had members that, one comes to mind. Whenever we first started working with her, she already looked great, but that was coming at the cost of training 2 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week. Every time that she went on vacation, it was like this whole ordeal that she had to prep for it. And then whenever she got there, she gained a bunch of weight because the wheels fell off, didn't take any photos. But on the outside, she looked great. She didn't have any weight to lose. But then we were able to scale back her workout significantly to 45 minutes, 50 minutes a day.
4 times a week.
4 times a week.
Yeah.
She went on that same vacation looking better than before without having to quote unquote prep for it, because it was just something that she did because she could stick with it. And for the first time ever, she gained what, like a pound? And she lost it like 3 days later.
And she was in pictures in a bikini.
And she was in pictures. And I think that this is the way that we're not talking about. And people are constantly living on this pause of waiting for the perfect time, of, the reality of always being in that prep. Oh, I'm going to wait for the stars to align. But the reality is that the stars don't align.
Never. But that's exactly part of that cycle that they continuously live on, is they're constantly waiting for the right time. They're never going to find the right time. So then they feel like a failure and taking the bull by the horns at the time that they initially thought about it. So then they suck at life because they didn't jump the gun when they should have. And it's just, again, it all filters in. It's that constant cycle that everybody wishes to ignore. And then they are able to find some sort of success, quote unquote, in a program that is their 30 days. So they think they've succeeded, and they're able to go on that vacation and look, but I did it. So I'll do it again when the time comes in. Instead of just realizing you don't have to be ready or get ready if you're constantly, I think you just recently made a post of it saying,
Yeah.
I don't have to prepare to be, I forget the terminology. You know what I'm saying though.
You ain't getting ready if you stay ready.
That's it. And that's what it is. And that just gives you such a layer of, I am so worth this life that I'm living, the happiness that I'm experiencing, the memories I'm making. I am worth it. And then everybody else feels it too. And then it's just now that reciprocation that filters in because you're seeing your worth and value. And then your significant other is seeing it. Your children see it, your family members, your colleagues see it, and they give back to you. And everybody is literally happier around you.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh, look at this is
Oh, I'm a
life.
bitch. If I don't feel good, I'm not a very nice person to everybody knows. And I might be a bit of more of an extreme than other people, or maybe I'm self-aware. But anybody who thinks that they're perfectly normal when they're like 30% of their brain capacity is constantly thinking about how the pants are digging, how they had to try 30 outfits before they went to work this morning, how they don't want to go to the networking event because they're going to see people that they haven't seen in a few years and they're going to see how much weight,
Yep.
like that's exhausting.
Beyond. And then how could you, and there are other factors too that maybe you are distracting yourself from or ignoring, but how does your skin ultimately look on your face too? Right? And how is your hair translating? All of the other factors that play into your physical presence that you don't realize but are you always doing something different with your physical appearance to distract from your weight, your 5, 10, 15 pounds?
And the whole concept, because I think it really fits well now, like when this podcast is going to come out, it's going to be, wrapping up the summer, kids getting back to school. And there is this whole idea that everything needs to be perfect. Oh no, I cannot start right now because, kids are not back in school yet, or maybe they just got back in school and we're getting back. And the reality is that there is always going to be a reason to not do. There is always going to be a reason to not start. And, I think we've been doing this long enough and to know that nothing is ever the utopic version that people see in their minds. And we've had several examples with members, one most recently that her house caught on fire. And nobody prepares for that. It's not like, what? I am going to get my workout today just to make sure that tomorrow when my house catches on fire, I'm going to be all set for the week, so I don't have to worry about that, and then I can get back things after the inspector comes for the fire that I already know that is going. Like that is not how life happens.
Make it make sense.
And constantly waiting, and I find that that's what gets people to a place that they don't even recognize themselves, because it's always waiting for that perfect stars to align. And I'm going to read here what I sent this member, because I think it might resonate with a lot of people, if I may.
Please.
She asked for advice, like she was like, talk about lifing. Do you have any advice? And my reply was, focus on what you can control, especially in such an uncontrollable situation. These are testing times where you can feel like taking a break from taking care of you is the right choice. But keep on reminding yourself that problems get solved best when you are at your best. So keep on showing up for yourself, even if imperfectly. If you don't have sneakers, wear flip-flops. Something is always going to be better than nothing. So my question for you now, Jen, is why do people stay in this cycle? Do you think that there is a comfort that a lot of people have in chaos? Like what would be the or is it that they don't know any different? Why do you think, from like a psychological perspective, an emotional perspective, a behavior perspective, why do we stay in this cycle?
The fear of failure again, the lack of trust that they can follow through completely to the end, and then continually follow through. They have not been taught that Adaptation is a cycle of life as well. Um, the guilt that might filter in to taking care of oneself, right? Because there are certain people out there that will make you feel guilty
Yeah.
in some which way, shape, or form. Caring too much about outside opinions rather than recognizing that your four walls is really what matters most. And if you can't be the happiest inside your four walls, the outside doesn't matter. So it's multifaceted and really does depend on the person and their upbringing as well, what they were taught at young ages, because we are taught everything that we believe about ourselves. It's not something that is self inflicted, it's something that we've been taught or told from the people that we've allowed into our life too.
And this is like kind of ties back to the last episode that we did, me and you, of like we can acknowledge in personal conversations we've had as well. We can acknowledge the things that happened to us as a kid, but at some point we need to decide to, we acknowledge, we understand, and we move forward, either using that as a superpower or, this is why I got here. How can I do things differently? And I think that that's where your expertise on the mental health side of things comes in to help people even see, because a lot of times they don't even realize it.
They don't. And they just, again, it's because it's something that's been so ingrained in them and it's natural. That's naturally how we will ultimately behave, is by what we've been programmed by. And then it's just giving the permission. And yes, we are the outside opinion that is giving permission. But then, of course, we just back that up with the proven fact of how their life completely changes, all for the better, and translates and trickles into everything else too. Just like the woman who unfortunately is dealing with the house fire, you know, how her husband was like, no, 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 you go work out because I know that you're going to be at your strongest when you come home mentally. I don't need you at your strongest fit. Ultimately, even though it is a combination effect, I don't need you at your strongest right now physically. I need you at your strongest mentally. So please go take care of yourself because I know that's what's going to benefit us as a family, as a unit that I need you as. So it's just giving yourself the permission.
What about when the waiting almost like becomes the norm? Like, oh, when things slow down, and whenever, kind of going back to nobody plans for a house fire.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you think is like the problem now with this? I'm constantly gonna wait when things slow down. And again, now we're entering that season that is like do or die in the sense of like, if you don't start to get your shit together, if you fell off the wagon, in June and July, which that's something that we worked very hard with a lot of our members to not happen. If we're like entering August, oh yeah, no, things are busy. Kids are getting back to school. Kids are getting back to college, catching up with work. Things are getting back. And then we have September. Oh yeah, I can do this. But then October to December, if you don't start to get things on track now, it's like literally going to be a wash until January for
So,
most people.
right. The concept of, it's procrastination, right? That's procrastination at its finest, waiting for the perfect moment. But the reason why people procrastinate is because, again, same thing. They're afraid that they're going to fail or they don't know how. So what do we do when we don't know how? We avoid and we look for something that we do know how to do, or you just really don't want to, right? But why don't you want to? Because it requires a little bit of effort. It's going to require you to admit that you are making some sort of a mistake at some point in time and accepting that and taking responsibility for, the mistakes you've been making. It's those hard realities that we have to understand about ourselves. But all it's going to do is your procrastination is just going to lead to constant delay, constant places of stress that you will not ultimately be able to alleviate so easily if you keep waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes. Speak to
You,
somebody who was 150 pounds and then all of a sudden is 300 pounds. How much harder is it going to be now because you just kept waiting for that perfect time? It's just like whoever is ready to have their firstborn child, whoever is really ready to be married, whoever is really ready to leave high school. Nobody.
to get a promotion, you
Right?
think that you're ready, and then the duties come, and then it's like, haha, you're cute, and like you get your ass handed out to
Yeah.
you.
You're never ready for any of life's big moments. You just have to bite the bullet and go. Don't think, just do. That's what I say. Don't think, just do. Take that first step. And as soon as you take the first step, the second step will follow. Concept of inertia: a body in motion stays in motion, a body at rest remains at rest. Right? We are balls of energy. So if we just embrace the energy that we are, we will roll in that motion.
And as you were speaking, I just took some notes here, and it clicked in my brain with the whole idea of like procrastination. And I truly believe that anybody that says, oh, I'm a perfectionist, oh, I'm a people pleaser, or I'm all or nothing, that is a socially acceptable way of saying that I'm a procrastinator. Because it all boils down to justifying your procrastination.
Yep.
Oh, I'm a perfectionist, so I cannot start straight away. No, you're procrastinating. You're pushing it to like this ideological time that you probably have been telling yourself that it's going to be perfect for the past 15 years.
And then define perfection for me, please.
Right.
Tell me what it is. And if you can define it, then cool. Then we have something to work for. But you can't define it because it's a standard that is completely unrealistic.
It's like the horizon. You keep on trying to touch it and you're never going to touch it. And I think that because even whenever it comes to careers, like, and that's an analogy that I've made several times in the office hours. It's like, why is it that whenever it comes to our careers, we accept the mistakes and we accept the failures, but but we still show up for the job the next day? We don't quit.
Right.
Like, oh, I messed up. Like, for example, an attorney. Oh, I lost this motion, so that's it. I'm turning in my bar card. That's it. I'm closing shop, and I'm gonna do something. Like, that's not how it works. But somehow with fitness, that's how it's become.
Because when it is something like your career, it's tangible, right? There's a lot of tangibility behind it. Or there's also the knowing that it's acceptable to kind of fuddle through, muddy waters, whatever the case may be, because that could be subjective, but it's acceptable. Fitness, it's a process that takes a lot longer. It's not necessarily tangible in the sense that tomorrow you'll see the corrected mistakes. It's going to take significant time to see the corrections. You can sit there and ultimately kind of bullshit your way through mistakes, if you will, sometimes in your career, especially because you're dealing with people who you can kind of, again, fumble your way through.
Yeah, like if I like last night we had a big mess up, and like we messed up something, like you went to the wrong place. I think it was the calmest that I have been with dealing with such a significant mistake, because I think whenever you start to accept, okay, mistake happened, shit happened, what can we learn from it? How can we do different?
Yeah.
And I think the crossover from being like this in my fitness journey has started to spill into my personal and professional life. And like the way I like to look at fitness is, I think it's almost like a mock trial, like it's a mini version, a controlled version of what you are going to know how to deal in life.
Yeah. The adapting.
Yeah, the adapting, getting used to failing, because, in fitness, the only way that you grow, like speaking about muscle hypertrophy, is by failing or getting as close to failure as possible, getting uncomfortable, doing things that, feel hard and difficult. How is this any different than life?
Right. The discipline, the responsibility to it, the responsibility to yourself to get it done, right? And then the respect that has to go hand in hand with all of that. It's everything.
Yeah, no, I think that was one of the biggest clicks for me, especially after I stopped competing, because I had a lot of very terrible experiences with competing, which I've been very vocal about. With that being said, I think a lot of the things that I learned about myself in the process are things that have translated in other areas of my life. You don't have to go through competing in order for you to learn those things. But for me, that's how it happened. And I think that we cannot talk about change, and we cannot talk about being able to create this change that is going to be lasting and is not going to be this 30-day, without talking about expectations and understanding that true change is going to require some level of discomfort and sacrifice. It's like you cannot expect to do the same thing that you were doing before and get a different outcome just because now you are paying for a coach
Right.
or you
Right.
signed up for the gym. So how can people learn how to wrap their head around what should be things that people ask themselves or start to incorporate into their day-to-day behavior about accepting this layer of sacrifice? And again, what is the threshold of the sacrifice? Because that is something that we pride ourselves. We're going to meet you where you're at. That way you can stay consistent with it. But even when we meet somebody where they're at, there is still a level of, of compromise that needs to exist. So how does the person find that happy medium of understanding that some things are going to have to change and that change is something that they can stick with?
Well, don't even look at it as though you're giving up any sort of anything, but rather gaining everything else. Don't look at it as though you're compromising life or compromising experiences. Rather, you are opening yourself up to receiving so much more. That's the problem. There's a negative undertone to the idea that, oh, all of a sudden I have to stop living life. I don't know. Ask some of our members, because I don't think they stopped living life. I think they're finally living it.
Mm-hmm.
They stopped existing. And that's the takeaway, is that you are immediately jumping headfirst into the thought process. Oh, I'm going to have to sacrifice my Saturday night binge drinking, or oh my gosh, my Sunday family dinners where I gorge myself full of everything. No, you're not. You're gaining presence in the moment with your family. You're gaining awareness and clarity because you have decided that a lifestyle is going to support true fulfillment. All of those things are distractions again.
Ooh, got goosebumps just listen because it is so true. And I think that you're going to start living because you're going to start living for the things that are important to you. And I feel like a lot of the yeses that are being said and the over commitment to all the things is an inability to set boundaries. And those boundaries are not set because there is a lack of self-respect that has been as a trickle down effect of the conversation we had at the very beginning of the respect to self.
Right.
So you just say yes to everything as a way to overcompensate.
Right. Which, if you think about that, now putting it into that perspective, and this might be a total, for another day and time, the idea of constantly saying yes goes hand in hand with being a people pleaser, right? Now, if you look at it, being a people pleaser is then to gain acceptance, gain or recognition, which then is part of the definition of being a narcissist.
That's a spin.
That was
Yeah.
the mic drop moment for me when I was starting to read new studies, right? That was like, oh, but if we put it into that, that's not something we want to be. So what is the takeaway from that? Recognizing how your boundaries are going to translate very differently.
Yeah. And, because that's something that we hear. I hear a lot before I get on a call with somebody. And I think that that's where the self-assessment comes in hand. Because whenever somebody tells me, oh, I don't want to give up my life to be healthy or to do X, Y, and Z. And I just did a whole podcast on that. But what life are you going to have if you don't have the health?
Right. Right. You're not. And, reading just the newest, just unfortunate real life experiences that some of us do have to live through, is younger and younger people are fading away. And by fading away, are they passing away? Some do. Are they fading away into an existence that is non-existent, to where they are completely disappearing from any bit of life because they've gotten so wrapped up in other things that are so unhealthy, creating this lifestyle that people who are ultimately choosing a different path are disconnecting from. And now all of a sudden, again, that's for another day and time. But I have also read a lot more studies and then also been experiencing a lot more passing away too early.
It's interesting because this is something that I've been talking a lot about on the office hour on my podcast, and it's been really ringing true to me. Is the whole idea that every yes that you say is a no that you say to something else, and it really comes down to that idea of the compromise and the sacrifice that you're going to have to make. Because I think we've talked about this, Jen, but the whole reason I'm going to talk about competing again, but it's going to give some context. The whole reason I started competing was because I was bartending at the time and I was getting, shit-faced 7 days a week. And I started to look around and I'm like, is this the life that I want? Like, is this really what I want? And, for me, that was my idea of quote unquote living
Mhm.
life. And the moment that I chose me, and the vehicle that I used for that was competing, but that is not here or there. It was my way of giving myself something bigger than
Right.
myself to focus on, a target. And it doesn't have to be competing. For me, that was the thing that was
Mhm.
offered. But I think that there are many different ways in which that this can be accomplished. In order for me to do that, and to be featured in magazines, and to become the best in the world, and to be a speaker around the world, I had to compromise, and I could no longer live that life that got me to a place where I was
Right.
unfulfilled. So I couldn't go out and get shit-faced 7 days a week and become the best
Mhm.
in the world. Because if I said yes to that lifestyle, I was automatically saying no to
Right.
becoming the best.
And where would you be now?
And is exactly. And I think that, like, this is why I feel so strongly about the idea of like sacrifice. And I don't even look at sacrifice. I even, I the more I think about it, I don't even think that the word is sacrifice, is analyzing your life and asking yourself, what do I want it to be?
Right. Right. What do you want most? It's those temporary pleasures that are you're allowing actually to sacrifice your life
Yeah.
rather than what do you want most?
Yeah. And that constant guilt, that comes with being stuck on that cycle of, oh, I don't want to sacrifice my life, but then every day you wake up feeling like shit.
Right.
Or, for someone who is trying to get in their fitness journey, it can be every single day waking up and finding another pair of jeans that doesn't fit, or
Hmm.
realizing that it's being another month or another year that you haven't taken a photo with your children. Isn't that worth a sacrifice to change?
It's priceless.
Yes.
Priceless. You
Yes.
can't put a price tag on it.
And what do you think? Like, how can someone objectively stop that cycle? How can they stop with that idea of like the getting back on track, or, oh, I need to stop because kids are like, what are the key mindset shifts that need to exist in order for someone to stop the cycle?
Oh, I mean, honestly, it's going to be hard. It's accepting that it's going to be hard, not necessarily in actual action. Well, I shouldn't say that. The initial action, right? The initial step is just open yourself to have a conversation, just a simple conversation, whether it is with your significant other, with a family member, with even your boss. Just, it could very easily be a simple conversation. Um, but ideally, honestly, with yourself, and just say, sit with yourself for 5 minutes. I tell everyone, sit with yourself for 5 minutes in quiet on the edge of your bed, on the couch, whatever. Just sit with yourself for 5 minutes. Can you sit with yourself and think only positive things within that 5 minutes and set a timer? So that's your first step. Sit with yourself for 5 minutes. 5 minutes worth of positive things.
I have something that I
Can
would
you
like
do
to
it?
add, because I think this is the first step to try to think the positive and stay with yourself, which is hard, I think, in a world of distraction. And then what I find is that we also have to acknowledge that it is okay to ask for help,
Oh, yeah.
like regardless of who that help is. Like, for some reason, asking for help has become so taboo. It's kind of like, oh, and it kind of goes back to what the fluff that you recorded, like, oh, am I weak because I'm asking for help? You ask for help for everything else. Like, a lot of times you don't just like go ahead and fix your roof. You ask for help
Right.
to fix your roof because there is a leak. You might not go ahead and fix your car because maybe you tried and you messed things up even more, and you ask for help from a mechanic. So why is it different whenever it comes to your body and that is having a negative impact on your mental and physical health. And I think that also asking the right questions to whatever it is, to whoever or whatever it is that you decide to ask the help from. Because
I think because it's your own, you did it to yourself. So you have to accept the fact that you possibly are the reason why you are where you are. And that's a really hard pill to swallow, that you are at fault. But accepting responsibility for said fault is also the most empowering piece of your puzzle. It's going to sit there and create such a strength, right? But the idea of asking for help for yourself too is, again, admitting that you yourself are not strong enough. But that's not the case, because when you ask for help, you are showing and showcasing how strong you really are. Vulnerability is never a weakness, and that's what it translates to. Vulnerability is always going to be your superpower, always, because that is when you actually allow yourself and give yourself the permission to receive everything you are worth receiving.
And you know what is interesting before we wrap up here? Because I always like to make parallels between career and in life in general. We work with a lot of attorneys, so I'm going to use an attorney as an example. Whenever we're talking about an attorney, it's very difficult that an attorney works like completely solo. They are likely going to have a paralegal, and then they're likely going to have a legal assistant because they see the value of their time. And this is just talking about that one resource. They know that if they try to do everything, they're going to have a mental breakdown and they're not going to be efficient on the thing that they're best at. Why is it that we cannot use that same concept for other areas of life, such as fitness? It's crazy to me, but I digress.
Because again, there's a tangibility behind it, I'm sure. Again, depending on the person, I would have to understand more ultimately where they're coming from to not understand why help would be discouraged, if you will, for their personal self. A lot of times it does have to be with how they were raised and the parents who told them that, just be seen and not heard kind of thing. But, there's the tangibility I'm talking about is time is money, money is time. These people are getting paid to help them. So it's, there's a price tag on it. But again, now you're putting a price tag on yourself, or you're not, or not realizing that you actually are priceless. So,
but even if we put a price tag, let's put a price tag. You know that my objective brain goes straight there. Let's put a price tag on it, okay? If you have been stuck for, I don't know, a year, if time is money, how much does it cost you to not be operating optimally because you are taking, your brain is consuming. So there is data that supports that women think about their bodies up to 8 times a day. Okay?
I don't mean to laugh, because all I think about is, of course, the direct correlation between like an 18-year-old boy, how much anyway, go ahead before I go into that topic.
Yeah. So a woman thinks about her body up to 8 times a day. It takes about 30 to 40 minutes for you to regain concentration after you get distracted by something. Okay. So if we are going to put a price tag on it, in your hour is worth, I don't know, $200. Let's put $200 just as a arbitrary number. And your work is 8 hours. Most attorneys or whatever are going to work a little bit more than that. But let's go with 8 hours just for a simple math. You're effectively only working 4 hours off the 8 in an effective manner because you're being distracted by something that you could be changing. And the more it goes on, the more you're going to be thinking about it.
And then if we want to stay objective, think about it. It's only 45 minutes a day that you would be working on yourself, possibly 3 to 4 times a week, and only taking about an hour to an hour and a half worth of prep for food processes. So you're now regaining back how much more productive time spent to regain.
Yeah, and this is you talking about after they decide to change, they decide to get help. I'm talking about the before. The before, the whole idea, I can't do this. Okay. If you're getting distracted 4 hours, 4 hours, you're just working 4 hours effectively. And, your hour is $200, you're basically losing $800 a day because you're being distracted by something that could be changed. How many opportunities, how many networking events are you not going to because you don't feel comfortable, and you say that you have a headache, but in reality, we all know that you're not going because you feel uncomfortable in your body. Because I'm going to tell you right now, every networking event that I go, I come back with at least 5 business cards, and it has never failed. At least one person becomes one of our members. So like meeting people and putting yourself out there is an earning potential in that. And I'm not looking at people just as a vehicle for earn, but if we're being objective about,
It's what speaks.
Yeah. And this is not even counting the things that are priced less.
Right.
Like not taking photos with your kids. Can you put a price tag on that?
No, because before you know it, they're not there to take photos with any longer because they're off doing their own life. Time. It's that the investment in the time that you've already lost. You can't put a price tag on that, but you can regain forward focus to regain what maybe you've missed already.
100%. Any wrapping thought, like before we wrap up, Jen, any additional thoughts on anything that you want to share that maybe we didn't cover? Because I know that we were here, there, and everywhere. But ultimately, I think that this is a conversation that needs to be had, especially for people that have been stuck with that same, they probably have lost 200 pounds, losing the same 10 pounds over and over again.
It's honestly I would love to give the encouragement to just open yourself to have the initial conversation with somebody that might be out there that could offer perspective, or a clarifying moment for you. Just give yourself the 15 minutes. Can you give that at least? Just to see if there's something that maybe you're missing, you're not understanding. Because that's the other thing too. A lot of times, maybe we're just not understanding how our own minds are working. And we just have to allow ourselves, again, give yourself the permission to take 15 minutes to have a conversation with somebody who is a professional in a field that could really help you gain clarity on how much life you're missing out on. That's the only takeaway that I could really encourage.
No, I agree. And I think that, listen, guys, my intention actually with this episode was never to make it a quote unquote sales pitch or anything. But I think that is because Jen and I feel so strongly about this because we see every single day how much, it's funny because we just had we do a quarterly survey within our team. And I just sent this out a couple of days ago. And honestly, I'm reading those and I'm legit crying because every single time it's like every single form that has been filled up until now, it has a variation of whenever we ask, like, what is the part about your job that you like the most? I truly believe that we're changing lives. And we feel very strongly about what we do, but I don't want this to feel like a sales pitch. This is about opening your eyes that there is something different out there. And if that's not with us, that's fine. Find someone that can meet you where you're at. It can be us. It can be the next person. I don't care. Like find something that works for you, but also be objective with your reality and, don't live in the fluff. Like Jen said, and being like, oh yeah, no, like I can totally do this 7 days a week workout for 2 hours a day, because that's a lie that you're telling yourself. And then you're going to mess up and you're going to fall off the wagon and then you're going to blame yourself thinking that you suck. But in reality, the strategy sucks.
Right. And somebody, never mind. Okay. Another day and time.
Yeah. Hold that thought. That is going to be the next episode. Well, Jen, thank you so much for being here today. I think that the listeners are going to get a lot of value. I think we talked a lot about different things that I feel like a lot of people don't even put two and two together. So I'm very grateful for your insight from a more, research-based perspective from the mind, from the behavior side of things, because it all comes down to the behavior change. Thank you. Adios. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week. But let me ask you, what was your aha moment in today's episode? I would love to know. You can leave me a comment at the link in the show description. You can also follow me on social media, Instagram. Links are down below as well. And let me know what topics you want to hear more about or who I should have on the show. This is it for today, guys. I'll see you back next week for another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast.